The Pursuit of the Machine God, which I think is a brilliant summary of what's going on. And I found it very illuminating because she's obviously got very close to the major operators in this. But if I step back from it, I look at AI like a knife. A good knife, you can use it for surgery or you can use it for murder. And that leads us into it immediately. AI, narrow, brilliant for picking out a terrorist in a football crowd. Also brilliant for suppressing a minority in China and bringing in a totalitarian state through social credit systems and all the rest of it. And in a way, we're sleepwalking into a future where we are gradually ceding control and information and data all the time, which could be used by bad actors against us. And this is the problem.
I really, this question of what it means to be human in a world of AI,
Yes.
I think has been really front of mind for a lot of people. And like, where do we live or exist or find our purpose in a world where theoretically these super intelligent systems will reach AGI, which means they're more intelligent theoretically than any human on Earth. But at the same time, you've got these other advancements in technology like humanoid robots.
Mm-hmm.
Where these humanoid robots, there was a live stream I've talked about a few times, and I'll just throw it up on the screen really quickly, that shows last week a humanoid robot working on a production line for 8 days straight, and they show it up against a human being, and it beats the human being on the production line because it doesn't need to sleep. It just needs to be charged for a couple of hours to full power. And so you combine these two forces, super intelligence and the disruption. You know, you can think of it like one is disrupting this thing here, the brain, and the intelligence within the brain. And then the other technology that's emerged at the same time is disrupting my muscles and
Yes.
my mechanics. And the two come together to make, voila.
Absolutely. So you face joblessness at all kinds of levels. And people are only beginning to realize the implications of that. And not just low-level repetitive jobs, it's high-level jobs like lawyers. And there's a deep-seated ethical problem running through all of this. And it's a very simple one. It's that technology advances much faster than the ethics that's needed to underpin it. And the difficulty is the people that have all the power will say, well, we need some ethical control of all of this, but we need to get on with the research to make it safe for you. Mm-hmm. So let us get on with it. And you can be a bit skeptical about the motivation there. It's a colossal power grab. Pilate famously responded, "What is truth?" and went out and declared Jesus innocent of the charge. And then he said to him just a bit later, "Don't you know I have power to crucify you?" And Jesus quietly said, "You would have no power against me unless it had been given to you from above." So there's one of the most famous confrontations between power and truth. And that statement that Jesus made, "I have come to bear witness to the truth," I regard that as the main motivation for my life. I'm trying to bear witness to truth as I see it at all kinds of levels in my own limited way. And that's what bothers me about AI. It's a reductionist. We're reducing people to machines. And you said to me a few moments ago that flagged up a thing in my mind that's very important. We need to be very clear what AI is and what it isn't. This is a machine. Machines do not think. Machines do not have qualia. They do not understand the redness of red. They do not experience emotion. They have no consciousness. And you see, I believe that the genius of God is that He's made you and me, and He's connected in us consciousness and intelligence. The machines are not conscious, but they simulate intelligence. And the experts are very clear that they're not trying to construct intelligence for a very simple reason. They have no idea what consciousness is from a scientific point of view. But they're trying to simulate intelligence and go as far as they can. And therefore, the danger is we anthropomorphize everything. We treat them as if they're conscious beings. And we need to step back and realize that we are conscious beings. And that gives us a supreme dignity and value. To reduce ourselves to merely machines, or on the other hand, merely animals, is to demean our value. And then where are you going to get value from?
I've got a quote here that's linked to what you just said. It's from Yuval Noah Harari, who you mentioned. He says, humans are now hackable animals.
Yes.
The whole idea that humans have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside them, that is over. And Sam Altman said the most successful founders do not set out to create companies. They are on a mission to create something closer to a religion. And at some point, it turns out that forming a company is the easiest way to do so. And lastly, a former Google engineer said, what is going to be created will effectively be a god. It's not a god in the sense that it will make lightning or cause hurricanes. But if there is something 1 billion times smarter than the smartest human, what else can you call it?
It's odd. Thank you for quoting that, because I was going to quote it to you. The Sam Altman's point about making a religion. And that is what is happening. And people have pointed out the obvious. Here you have a system, even now, that has got some of the qualities we normally associate with God. It appears to be omniscient. You can ask it any question. It is omnipresent through the internet, etc., etc. And therefore, already there are worship groups to worship AI. And some people welcome this and say, well, this is the way we should go. And other people say, just wait a moment. There's something very strange going on here. And in the end, you are bowing down to something that in the end is idolatrous, because it is less than God. But it's very tempting to do that.
I mean, people are basically praying to it now. They're confiding in a way that they might have.
Absolutely doing it. And you know, I'm fascinated by this. I've never seen one of these before, but I like it. And I tell you why I like it.
So for people that can't see what we're doing, it's a brain.
It's a brain. And it's got two halves. And one of the people who've influenced my thinking about AI a lot is Dr. Ian McGilchrist, the author of this fascinating book called The Matter with Things. And he has studied the fact that this brain has two hemispheres, two halves. Both halves are involved in almost every cognitive event, but the two different halves have different ways of paying attention to the world. One is narrow focus, the left side of the brain, and the other is the big picture. And he says what has happened historically in the West is for the last 500 or so years, we have concentrated on the narrow, rationalist, reductionist left side of the brain, and we've forgotten the right side that contextualizes everything, so that, quote, we now find ourselves in a world where we understand how almost everything works, but we know the meaning of nothing. And what he calls for is to open this sphere up. And of course, that includes to beauty, culture, art, music, and religion. Step by step, he appears to be creating more room for God, because God makes sense of the space he feels is very necessary to fulfill. And I find that absolutely fascinating. You know, there are existential things for people. They're afraid.
Should they be?
Well, they should be afraid of some things. I think the creeping advance of totalitarianism is something that could engulf us all. If we're not very careful, it's creeping, and is being rolled out in parts of the world, particularly China. But not only. I read a very interesting report by a Chinese watcher saying, beware, you in the West, because the only difference between us and you is you've got all the technology, but not yet a central government imposing it. Not yet. Beware, you in the West, because the only difference between us and you is you've got all the technology, but not yet a central government imposing it. Not yet. Beware. And I think we have to beware, because we are sleepwalking into this. Sir Anthony Seldon, I don't know whether you've come across him. He's an educationist very highly regarded by various governments, has written a book about AI and its effect in education. And of course, it's having a devastating effect. As you know, what is an essay? everybody's using AI, and it's hard to recognize whether it's AI or not now. So that we're into a whole new world, or coming rapidly into it. How do we know what is true and what isn't? A few weeks ago, I was contacted, could a publisher produce a transcript of a recent lecture I'd given because they liked it so much? Never heard of it. I looked it up, discovered a website describing itself as Lennox Logic, and it was a picture of me, but it was deep-faked all the way through, and AI-generated material that I would never have said, all politicized and everything else.
Is it conceivable that maybe, so much of this technology has promised that it would make us more human, and so much of it failed? It made us more isolated and lonely.
Oh, yes.
Is it conceivable that if a technology comes along like AI, it will render us useful for the things that humans are uniquely positioned to do? As in, being with each other in the real world and relationships. And is it conceivable that maybe we were never meant to sit in front of screens tapping buttons? And
I think that's absolutely true. It's already exercising many people's minds in that direction.
And could that be a better life?
Well, how would I judge that?
I guess one way, yeah, it's a good point. I was thinking about this. I was thinking, is this like the moment where we kind of regress back to how we used to live, our true, maybe human nature? Is that what happens here, where, I don't know, we spend more time with each other in the real world, and because that's what, that's very human. And my Maslowian needs of connection and touch and...
Well, you can demonstrate that. Look at these groups of parents who have said to their kids, look, we're going away into the country for a week and we're taking your smartphones away. And they grumble and say, no, no, no. And they come back after the week having rediscovered nature. They don't want to use their smartphones very much. Totally transformed by touch and taste and feeling. You see, AI is a machine. It doesn't have any of our 5 senses, which are all connected with our consciousness. It doesn't see, it doesn't hear, it doesn't taste.
When you say it doesn't
touch, it doesn't smell.
It doesn't see.
Oh, it can be programmed to recognize patterns, but it has no awareness of what the process of seeing is.
Does it need it?
Well, that's not the point. What I'm saying is it's distinctively human that we understand what seeing is. We know what seeing red is.
Do we?
The machine, yes, I think we do. I mean, we can philosophize all around it, but it's a conscious experience. And consciousness, from a scientific perspective, is called the hard problem. No one knows what it is.
We don't understand it.
Yes, you can't replicate it.
So how do we know if AI is conscious? If the output is the same, i.e. I can point an AI at this and say, what is it? And the AI will say it's a mug. And I can get a human to walk in here and say, what is that? And they'll go, a mug. Now, the output is the same.
Yes, but the understanding is not there.
And why is that critical?
Well, because there's a huge difference in being a machine and responding to a program created by others and being aware of what you're doing consciously. That's a totally higher level of being.
I agree. But why does that matter in this context?
Well,
another way of asking this question is actually visualized by what I have in front of me here, because one of the big debates around AI is it creative?
Yes, I know.
So here we have a picture done by a human.
Yes.
Here, which is, a picture of a family and a dog. And then we have another picture here, which is done by AI.
Yes.
And we have another picture here, which is done by a different AI.
Yes.
Now, there's a debate that AI can't be creative. Now, can AI be creative?
Well, if you call what's in front of you as creative, then it can be. But it now comes down to the very big question of what you actually mean by creative.
Yeah.
You see, it can create things. It can put things together that haven't been in that form before. But it's not aware of doing it. It doesn't know that those are children because it doesn't know.
But if I ask it, what is that? It would say a child.
Yes, but it doesn't know. Like we know.
And it goes back to the same question, which is like what the process. Why does the process matter if the output is identical?
Well, let me just say that view is exactly the view that Alan Turing took at the beginning. And if you look at what's often referred to as the AI Bible, Peter Norvig and his colleagues, he said, look, we are not trying to create a conscious machine. We wouldn't even know what that meant.
Yeah.
We are happy with the imitation game. And that's good enough for us. We're not trying to do it. But you see, the conscious side involves all that appreciation of life and nature and beauty and so on that we can see some meaning in. But also there's another thing. There's a consciousness of other people. And there's God consciousness. I don't think AI is anywhere near that. Machines, there are certain things they cannot do, even potentially, that the human mind can do. So there's no way a machine is ever going to be able to simulate a human mind completely. But that's difficult. That's difficult mathematics and all the rest of it, and it's highly controversial.
Why is it an important conversation to have that it is conscious or not conscious when
Because
the output is the
yes,
same.
I can see the question. But if you want to live in a reductive universe, which ends up being meaningless, well, then you can go that way. There's nothing to stop you. But it seems to me there are enough indicators within nature, within science, within our human experience that tell us there's a bigger world. And this is the right and left brain stuff. We're back to McGilchrist again. His stuff in AI is very strong. He thinks it's really dangerous because it's ruining all this side of the brain and the richness of human experience, and it's in danger of destroying it. He actually invites people to come and fight with him.
So in such a world, what is it that makes humans, what is it that makes us special? Is it that those human things we talked about, relational?
Oh, I think so. Yes, absolutely. And the fact that you and I can have a conversation like this.
You could have this conversation with AI.
Not in the same way. AI is pretty thin still. You can have a conversation of sorts. But remember, who's responsible for its capacity? Humans. It's something made in the image of humans, and that's a dangerous thing. I'd prefer to remain with something made in the image of God.
It's interesting because we're getting to a point where there's going to probably be some like ethical questions around
they're
robotics.
already here.
But I mean around robotics.
Oh, everywhere.
You know, in the same way that many of us feel quite empathetic towards like trees.
Yes.
And we feel empathetic towards animals.
Yes.
Now, trees haven't got a brain, but just cutting down a tree needlessly, I think would annoy a lot of people because it
would annoy me.
Yeah, it would annoy me too. And I think there's almost going to get to a point where like, you know, people are going to start asking similar questions around
robots,
it's an interesting question.
It is.
Let me ask you a final question then, which is, what is the most important thing we haven't talked about that we should have talked about as it relates to all of the work in these tangential subjects?
Oh, I can't answer that. That perhaps the most important thing is finding the trigger that would help you to take a step forward into faith, into the Christian faith. And I would just encourage you to keep asking your questions in the open way you've done. And I've regarded it an honor to have this discussion. And I hope very much it won't be the last one, but age may prevent that. But thank you very much.
We have a closing tradition where the last guest leaves a question for the next, not knowing who they're leaving it for. And the question that's left for you: in a world with so many challenges, what can we do to restore hope and trigger engagement?
Give people a real basis for hope that transcends this world. And the only place I know where to find that is in Christ and in Christianity.
John, thank you. One of the most compelling arguments for God that you've presented and your way of seeing the world and being is not actually necessarily anything you've written in your books, or not necessarily anything you've said. It is actually you, and you have a certain peace and contentment that I rarely see in people that I interview, but I often see, and I've almost always seen, in the Christians that I've interviewed. And this is a interesting phenomenon for me. I interviewed Wesley Huff recently. Do you know Wesley Huff?
Yes.
He was the same
Canadian.
as you. Yeah.
Wesley's a bright cookie.
Yeah, he gave me the same feeling as you, just like feels like a really happy person, very sort of content, rounded,
there are many of us.
Yeah, but it seems to be a trend that, a lot of the Christian apologists that I've interviewed have that anchoring that so many of us are looking for.
There's a real sense of that. I sit in front of many people, and of course they often ask me questions I don't even understand, but in life, that peace is very important to me. And also what we started with. When I look at you, I see someone who's of infinite value, made in the image of God. And so what I say to you or think about you is hugely important to me. And I wish you well.
Thank you. I highly recommend, you've written so many books, I don't have all of them here, but I have a long list of them. But I highly recommend everybody goes and checks out your autobiography, which is your most recent works.
Yep.
It's called John Lennox. I'm going to link it below. It's a spiritual and intellectual autobiography that I think is highly fascinating to read because of how diverse your thinking and skill sets are. But also, if people are interested in the subject of AI, then I highly recommend...
Then they should read 2084.
I'll link 2084 below as well. That's okay. 2084, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Humanity. And I highly recommend everybody goes and reads both books because you are a truly fascinating person with a very unique skill stack and experience stack and perspective. Fascinating. Thank you so much, John.
Oh, thank you.